Of course, I'm American, but right now, every day I feel more Canadian, man. Alistair Johnson says Wisconsin's the 17th province.
My guest today is up there with Kyle Lowry, Roy Halladay and Pirate Joe's among the greatest American gifts to the Canadian nation. The pride of Racine, Wisconsin, US international turned top European club manager, skinny jeans aficionado, now leading the Canadian national team. And just 3 months into the job, he was thrust into fire at Copa América against the best teams in our hemisphere, and he emerged emotion-drenched, ecstatic, charging hard into the semi-finals. We'll discuss the lessons learned along the way, as well as the challenge ahead, the upcoming game against the USA in Kansas City, and then Mexico in Dallas. It's a joy to welcome back your manager of your Canadian national team and my friend, it's Mr. Jesse Marsch.
Roger, I'm always interested in what your next introduction for me is. And this one, I think, was like all the others. Amazing. Very thoughtful. Well done, my man. Good to see you.
I'm just reading back to you what you've accomplished. I do so little. You do the hard yards in this writing by living out this stuff.
Oh, my comparisons with the gifts to Canada. I mean, that's amazing. This is amazing.
It's true. It's true. Wisconsin is now part of Canada, Jesse. But when we last spoke, it was Copa Eve. You're on the cusp of your first international tournament as head coach at the international level. I know you'd spoken to Gareth Southgate, then England manager, current Barcelona, former Germany boss Hansi Flick, your old mentor, Ralf Rangnick, now at Austria, about how to translate your methods to the international arena. Your main takeaway then was to bring your own spirit to it no matter what. And spoiler alert, the Copa, a real win for Canada. But now that you've had a summer of real-world experience, Jesse, what surprised you about international management that you hadn't thought about at club level?
I don't know that I have a great answer for that particularly, but what I can say is that the certainty that I had that we could develop a style of play, I was adamant about that. And one of the reasons why I chose to come to coach Canada was because I thought it could be done, and I thought if there's a team in the world that had the best chance to put it to practice, it was Canada. Look, I've been good for them to help them and to create new demands and standards for what I think I can help them to become. But they've helped me, man. They've really brought the love of the game back for me. They've brought the love of coaching and leading. They're a lot of fun to work with. They respond really well to who I am, to how I think. We've found a lot of symmetry and a lot of likenesses in each other. And yeah, I don't know if 20 years ago I would have thought that would have ever been possible, but I'm really thankful to be here and excited. Like now, thinking about this next window and getting back together, and then, even looking forward and planning for next window. And I just get excited every time I think about getting back together with them. So I can't wait to be there in Kansas City and have guys sort of filter in and see them one by one and have smiles on their faces and be ready for another good camp and some really good competition.
I love that. I mean, it's poetry to restore, reconnect to a love of football, possibly the most powerful thing. But you had, after we last spoke, the hardest, possibly the rudest awakening or the greatest challenge possible in your first game proper. That was against World Cup Copa reigning champions Argentina. And I want to relive a couple of the moments from the Copa, really to tease out the lessons you've learned. You told me you were preparing to face Lionel Messi in training by having one player wear a bib so that everyone knew exactly where one man was on the field at all times. That game ended a frustrating 2-0 loss. But I am interested, was that a moment when you learned the extent to which an international team can quickly take on board in a really compressed time the complex ideas that as a club coach, you've got months of pre-season to drill into your boys?
No, when you say that, and now I know how the game went, we played well in the match, but Messi got away all on his own too many times. And maybe I needed to find a way to slip like a pink jersey on him in the match so it wouldn't have been so easy. Luckily for me, I've played against a lot of these players, and I kind of know the things that they like to do and the things that they're good at. And for me, it was trying to, sometimes it's with little videos of individuals or with groups or then showing different things. Look, even I usually don't do this, but with this team, I have shown some of the things of when I've played certain players with different teams I've had over the years, like when we played Messi and say, look, we were successful here, and we tried to do this. And on the day, he only scored 2 goals or something like this. But, I've been trying to build a way. And then in the way, I've tried to also be clever with what kind of match plans we can create to be successful and tilt things to use our weapons and our abilities more and more and more and try to prevent the opponent from using theirs. And, after we played Argentina the first game, it was a good game. We pushed the level. And this is the best team in the world. They play very physically. They press hard. They're in your face. They're good in duels. And they physically go after the game in a really demanding way. And I think that we push them to their limits. Obviously, they still have enough quality at the right moments to make plays. But we really pushed the way the game was played, the level, the speed at which the game was played. And even in the semifinal, like if we can happen to get a goal at the 78th, 83rd minute, maybe we push that game at the end when we made some subs. So look, we're in the beginning of our process. And I was less really worried about results in the overall picture than I was about, can this team put all of this to practice in a way that resembles what I think they need to look like? And the answer is yes. It's a resounding yes. And it gets me excited to keep pushing the level at which they can think and play.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The results, I know you didn't care about them, but they did change. A 1-0 win over Peru, a 0-0 draw with Chile secured your passage out of the group stage into the clear blue waters of the knockout rounds. But when we last chatted, you did talk about how you'd matched up the natural attributes that you saw of this Canadian team, the speed, and how it aligned with your style of play. And you said then that you believed there was low-hanging fruit, immediate changes that you could help to transform the results. And I am interested in tournament play where the games come so bloody fast and you actually have to have recovery days in between. How much can you actually change game to game?
In this last stretch, we had worked a lot with kind of one group. And they had performed well together. So I kind of always wanted to keep the process of working with that group moving forward. Then we got to the semifinal. We had one less day's rest. If against Venezuela, we finish off some of our chances in the first half that we should have, and we were able to put that game on ice earlier, then maybe I could have rested a few more of our important players or players that were starting to fatigue to help prepare them for Argentina. But we weren't able to do that. Every game for us came down to the wire. And I kind of knew before the Argentina semifinal that the guys were going to be tired. And there was discussions inside the staff about, do we make changes? Maybe if it was a different year where I had established things with the group, that I could do that. But I just felt that group had worked really hard to get there and that it wouldn't have been fair to take 5-6 players out of the lineup, even though I thought that from a competitive standpoint that was the right thing to do. But then about 20 minutes in, and this is right before we gave our first goal, I looked at the bench. I go, we're tired. Our legs, we don't have the legs that we need. I still thought that group dug in hard and played hard. And then one of the best things for me in the whole tournament was when we made a bunch of changes to play Uruguay, we played really well. And we were better than Uruguay. And we looked still like our team. And that's always the key for me is, we used to say this in Red Bull, like if you take the jersey off and you just put 2 teams out there, you'd always want to know that's our team. That's our style. That's the type of team we have. That's the type of mentality we created. That's our team. And in that game, at somewhere in the second half, I remember looking out there going, that's my team. Even with a bunch of new guys, they understood how we wanted to play. They understood what their roles were, what the tactics were. Even playing against a special team like Uruguay and a quality team against Uruguay, they were able to take our principles, take the match plan, put it together, and have 11 players on the pitch really clear and really sharp and able to look like a complete team. And I think those are the moments that you're often even more proud as a coach than just wins, right? Is when your team is in a difficult situation, new players have to play, and you still get to see the same version of what you're trying to build.
Go for a team of 11 Jacob Schaffelbergs. I've got 2 more quick questions on the Copa. You mentioned the Venezuela quarter-final. It went to penalties. And I know, Jesse, you don't like to reveal your secrets. But can you tell us one big psychological secret of winning a penalty shootout? No one's listening to this.
Look, I don't have a lot of secrets. But shooting first, we always try to do. One of the things I do is 2 days before is I emulate the exact same kind of training where they start at midfield, where they walk up, where there's a referee, where it's the exact same feel of what it would be in the match, and get them used to that whole feeling. And we keep score. I make them each put $100 on the line. And then I make sure they pay up because that's the harder part. But, and then when I watch that happen, I don't just pick the guys that make the shots. I pick the guys that look like their body language, their belief, their conviction when they take the shot. So even if they miss it, right, that you can see like they're ready for this, because there's a feel to it. And look, I knew when I took them that this was one of the things I could feel in myself was, am I ready for this? Do I know what I'm going to do? Do I have a preconceived mindset? If something changes, am I ready? Like, did I already have a plan in my head and was I ready to execute it? And you can see which guys are kind of just going up there to take a penalty and which guys are up there going, this is going in the net. And so I try to always stick with those kind of guys. One of the great things about this shootout is I had the 5 picked out. And Jonathan Davies looked at me on the bench and was standing right next to Ishmael and was pointing at Ishmael. And he was looking at me. And I looked at Jonathan. I go, yeah, okay, good. And he grabbed Ishmael by the jersey and he said, come on, you're taking the 6th. And then Ishmael went out and stepped up and took the 6th. And I'd been telling the leadership council that the more that they take over the team, the better we are. I've been telling him, like, I need you guys to take ownership. And after the game, when that happened and Ishmael scored, I was so proud of them. So proud of them. And again, it let me know that they get me and I get them. There's a different kind of connection here. And it was a big reason why I came is because I really hoped that I would be the right fit and that we would be able to create something special. And there's been 100 things that have happened like this that let me know that this is absolutely the right place for me.
My takeaway from that is I want Jonathan David to be the next coach of Everton Football Club, but it was some tournament. And big picture, we got to watch you turn around the Canadian energy and strategy on the field. We then got to experience Emma Hayes execute her remarkable transformation with the US women at the Olympics. But as you now know, international management, the squad then breaks up, goes to the 4 wins. Club pre-season is where your players have been. Transfer window. What do you do in this time as an international manager? Do you watch and re-watch Copa game film? Did you watch training footage of your players at club, or do you work on your golf game?
I haven't golfed, which it's a good idea. I probably should have snuck in at least one golf game. First, when we left, as I said to them, it's great. It was a great tournament, but the things that I emphasize with them, they know that it's made them better players, right? That I've pushed them, and I've heard at different moments people say, "Oh, national teams can't develop players," and that's, to me, it's like, if you're ever going to be a coach, and I don't care if you're a coach for 5 minutes or 5 years, you would hope that at the end of your time that you've had with a player, with a team, that they're going to be better for what they are. And one of the things I've said is they can't go back to their teams and play like they used to, because I criticized a lot of them for not being hard enough, for looking too young on the pitch, for not being demanding and physically present enough, not enough sprinting and duels and not enough conviction when they're on the ball, and too much safe play. I said, it can't go back to that. There's no looking back. And I need to see that all of them, I gave them all development plans, and I need to see them all. And of course, their club team coaches are going to have different demands tactically than what I have. But still, there's little things in the game that we do that can benefit them in whatever style of play. And to be fair, as I've watched them, they've done that. And they've all had good performances because of that. So I said to them, the goal will not be to get back together and to pick up where we left off. No, we have to be even another step ahead. And that's how our development path needs to continue. So I believe that we'll be in position to do that, but it'll be also key for me to make sure that we're urgent from the first day that we're together. Then look, I've been recruiting dual nationals. I've been around here in Canada watching the youth game, meeting people in the youth game, trying to understand how I can help continue to develop out what the youth game looks like. We've been having discussions about fundraising, and then once we get the fundraising, how we're going to deal with creating a better infrastructure for our men's and women's youth program, national youth team youth programs. And then there's real preparation for what this window is going to look like, and making sure that we're evaluating the U.S. and Mexico, even though they will both have new coaches, to understand what we want those games to look like. So it's a lot, it's still a lot to cover and deal with, but certainly the rhythm is different than being in a club team.
You were writing Canadian history with that run to the semis about what's possible. As you were doing that, the host nation, the United States, who you're about to play against, struggled. I mean, really, it was hard for us to watch the group stages, which we slumped out of. At the time, you said you were sad, disappointed with the results, the lack of discipline. The repercussions were immediate. Greg Berhalter lost his job. You were quick to nix any hope of you throwing your hat into the ring. You said about the Canadian role, and I quote, "I'll tell you, I'm glad I'm here, man." Watching that situation with the US unfold, Jesse, what about the Canadian job made you much more grateful to be in your current role?
You need to work on your American accent, Raj. It's the only thing you don't have in your repertoire.
I've been here decades, and all I can say is, hooray for Hollywood. I could say $1 million. That's all I can do. That's it. Terrible.
Well, look, I mean, there were some things inside CSA that I think everybody knew were not good enough.
The Canadian Soccer Association.
That's been, I think, one of the beauties is that by knowing that it's not good enough, we know we have to rebuild and create new platforms and start kind of again to make it what we want it to be. But it's a little bit like a blank slate where we can do it the way we think it should be done. And there's a lot in our community that needs to be repaired in terms of what the relationships are and the trust that people have in the CSA. So that's what Kevin and I, and look, I've mentioned Kevin Blue so many times, but the guy's truly amazing.
Kevin Blue, Canada's soccer CEO.
He's bright. He's got innovative ideas. He can execute. He's disciplined. He's fun to work with, man. Being around him is energizing because I just know that we're on a pathway together because we have such a good leader, right? So awesome. And again, I really believe we're going to have the right people in charge and we're going to really now jumpstart this thing to be special.
The United States are about to announce Mauricio Pochettino as their new manager. It's an incredible moment for CONCACAF. We've got you in Canada. We've got Steve McLaren in Jamaica. Poch soon to ride with the United States boys. And you know Poch well, former Spurs and PSG boss. A man who loves to live by the creed when life gives him lemons. It's remarkable he's coming, real culture builder, developer of talent. You faced him twice before, group stages of the Champions League, late 2021, I think, when you were at RB Leipzig. He was at PSG. What can you tell us about Poch as a manager? What should Americans expect? What were your initial impressions of the hire?
Yeah, Poch is a good man. He was one of the managers that after the match, regardless of the result, would come and talk and say hello, and not just say hello, but like talk about his job. How am I doing? We had two good discussions in the two times we played each other. We share some friends in common and colleagues in common. So, that helped us, I think, even before we had met, know of each other. And yeah, I mean, I think he's a good guy. And I hope that he's given a lot of freedom and room to implement what he is and who he is and how he thinks, because certainly the U.S. has never had a national team coach with his pedigree and with his experiences, and we'd be foolish not to really give him the reins in every way. But I think he's going to find that there's going to be some major challenges that he's going to have to address. I've heard a lot of the players saying that they need someone to crack the whip. I don't know. Maybe that's right. I would hope that's not the case, but professional players should be ready with the national team to do whatever it takes for your national team. That's my opinion. But I don't think he's necessarily a whip cracker. I think he's a good man with a good idea and a good way of implementing it. And that's what they're going to get, I think. So, yeah, I hope he's successful.
The football script writers have worked overtime. Your next game, 4 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, September 7th, is against the United States. Poch will not yet be leading them, but Jesse, I don't need to say this. You're very American. You're a proud American. And I know you're an emotional man, a gent who's played for the US men's national team. You're also deeply bloody competitive, and you are utterly committed to the Canadian program. What emotions do you expect to feel as the national anthems are playing in Kansas City?
Of course, when the national anthem gets played, that'll be tough for me, right? But I'm focused on Canada, and I'll be ready to sing the Canadian national anthem, and I'll be excited about it. Of course, I'm American, but right now, I every day I feel more Canadian, man. And the way people treat me here, the way they welcome me here, the way they've really brought me in to be one of their own. Alistair Johnson says Wisconsin's the 17th province. So, maybe you could consider it like a region that's in both. There's those around the world, So I do enjoy being here. There are a lot of things about being Canadian that resonate with me. I'm trying to do them proud. I'm trying to in all ways represent the national team and what a national team coach should be. And I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. So good luck. I always wish the best for the U.S. and I want that national team to be successful. But right now, I'm all about Canada.
What do you expect from the game tactically? What are you planning for? Even with an interim coach, I mean, the American footballers so well.
And I know Mikey.
Mikey Varys.
I did a podcast for Mikey during COVID for his youth club in Burlingame, California. So Mikey and I go way back.
God, from podcast host to international coaching nemesis. I mean, what do you expect from this?
He'll play. I think the same as what Greg did. He'll play a version of that. I think even when you've watched his U20 games, they played a lot like what they were doing with the first team. So, I mean, he'll probably have a few little tweaks in there. He'll try to keep us a little bit off balance, I'm sure. But I'll be expecting a lot of kind of the things that they have already been doing over the last years.
God, by the way, when you say that Mikey Varys was once a podcast host, is now coaching the US team, I immediately think about myself and my own future. Maybe from podcast host, I can next throw my hat.
It wasn't listen, let's just be clear. I want to make sure that you have no chance, okay? He was running a soccer club and he was doing a podcast for his coaches about
dream, Jesse.
That's amazing. It's awesome. I will say it's the American dream. But it is the American dream, but it ain't happening to you, brother.
Very quickly, speaking of national anthems, I do need to acknowledge I am blown away by how quickly you learnt the Canadian anthem. It was actually quite moving. You belted out "O Canada" before each game, almost like a Canuck Gigi Buffon. This is a serious question. How much time did it take you to master the words, and when do you even find time to practice?
Well, remember, I coached in Montreal. I knew it more in French, right? We would sing it in Montreal. We would sing it in French. So I just had to change it a little bit and learn the words in English. But I kind of knew a lot of them already. But even I was next to Mauro Biello, and when we're together with our arms and I start singing, he kind of looked over at me when we first played Holland like he knows the words. So, of course. You got to know the words, man. You're representing the nation.
You got to know the words.
I'll do it in French. When we play in Montreal, I'll do it in French.
God, and I will buy you all of St. Viateur bagels you want a feast. This is a friendly. We want to win. You want to win. But what do you want to learn? Tell us from this pair of games. You've got Mexico Tuesday night as well. What's your managerial goal in this next phase for Canada as you ramp towards that home World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the first chance to see, can they truly pick up even better than where they were when they left off? We have 3 new players coming in. And it can't just be that it's me working on integrating them, right? It has to be that the team takes on the responsibility of, so then we do this, and this is how we play, and this is the expectation, and this is your role. I'm going to really push everyone. So obviously the staff and the physios and all this, but the team to really help teach all the new players, where we're going, how we're getting there, and what the expectations are. And then in the end, the level of the game. The games are always the test. And so against really good opponents, where I think after Copa América, to have the test to play the 2 best teams in our region and to see where we're at, I think really important and really good timing for us. So again, in all ways, man, I'm super excited for these 2 matches.
I can tell. By the way, we don't have time to get into it, but the big news, you mentioned the 3 new players. 2 dual nationals will be reporting for the first time. It's going to be fascinating to watch Canada recruit as we have in a really aggressive way. Also fascinated, last time we spoke, you talked about how you wanted your team to be nastier, kind of paraphrasing. You wanted there to be more holes in the team to do the dirty work.
More like me, Roger.
I was trying to not state the obvious there. I love you.
I'm taking away your poetic. Okay, your verse is gone.
We will see if your team are more like you. But last question for you. The Canadian team, your Canadian team, they are about to embark on a journey. It's one that's paved with dreams and opportunity. Ultimately, they'll arrive on home soil to play in the biggest competition in the world, belting out their national anthem alongside you, proving that Canada is a true footballing nation. Knowing that you're readying, almost, I mean, this sounds like the beginning of Homer's Odyssey, and you're readying the ships. What is your message to Canadian fans about all that is to come?
Get on board, man. Get on board, right? Come to the stadiums. Like, when our players are in town, hug them. Get your photos. Like, treat them like kings, like they are. They're amazing young men, and they're going to electrify this country in 2 years. I mean, look, when I come and I'm here in the streets of Toronto, I'm amazed at how many people come up, and everybody's excited. And we're still 2 years away. That's what's crazy. I think the closer and closer we get, the energy is going to keep mounting. And it's 2 years that we really need to continue to push to be all the things we know we're going to become. And so my main job is to make sure this team in all ways is prepared to do whatever it takes come June, July of 2026. But in the meantime, there's so many little grassroots groundwork, things done, down on the streets to make sure that we're prepared, we're supported, we're financially secured, we're smarter than we were when we first started, that we're clear, and that the vision for exactly what it is to change the sport in this country. We have to change the ability for this sport to be played at a high level and develop players, and we have to electrify the national team in the sport in this country. Point.
What's your promise to those fans about what your team will give?
Everything, man. I think we've seen it. They're going to run, fight, play. They're going to be confident. They're going to believe in themselves and each other, and they're going to make this country proud. That's what they have done. Because it's not like we've won all the games, right? Our record's not that great, but it's the way that we've played, I think, that's really gotten people to sit up in their seats and get excited about it. We've been aggressive. We haven't sat back. We've gone after opponents. We've created chances. We just need to score more goals. If we can score some more goals, we're going to be okay.
Jesse, I appreciate you so much. I wish you huge love, huge joy, huge success. Not for 90 minutes on Saturday, but definitely for all of Tuesday. You've got all of it, to you, your family, your team, and your adopted nation. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. See you soon, Raj.
Courage.